Oh, good. How are you?
I can't
Very all right. Yeah, so now. How are you?
I can't
Very all right. First, we got
For Sunday's gonna be gifts.
Everybody makes their own. I
what do we do?
I just saw you on the green, I just saw you on the front porch. Are you still the
I'm using my flag for some reason.
You made it on time. That's unusual.
That's amazing, Mark.
We told him,
We remember.
we told him it was 6 o'clock.
Okay, that's how we got here, huh? Oh my, where are we gonna be?
I don't know.
I don't know, what's the plan? I think so. There's still people.
Yeah, we stayed at the, in the,
No, I think
Tony's in there buying ice. I'm glad you look like you have no problem. I can't open that. Yeah,
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Father Jim Farrell. I'm chaplain of the Benedictine Sisters of Our Lady of Grace Monastery and a longtime friend of Sherry Meyer and Father Tonino, and one of the people who in this room have been to Uganda to visit and even have gone to Uganda to give retreats. So I'm delighted to be here and to be a part of welcoming you and welcoming them to this evening of conversation, hopefully just to give you a little better idea of what has been going on in Arua, Uganda, these last, almost 50 plus years and 34 years. So I hope you'll find the evening very interesting and entertaining. Just for a moment, who in the room has been to Uganda, to Arua? Raise your hands. We got 1, 2, we got 4 or 5 over here and a couple over here. So, well,
Yeah, it's
So we're glad that you're here. We're going to have an opportunity for questions. Just consider it kind of an open playing field, opportunity for dialogue. The whole point of our having this evening is just to enrich your understanding of missionary life in one small corner of the world, and also the good that you are helping to accomplish by whatever support and contributions you've given through the years to Sherry and Father Tonino's work, most over the last 20 plus years to Radio Pachas in particular. And of course, we can listen to Radio Pachas from the comfort of our phone or our home because they are constantly live streamed. Matter of fact, it was the funeral of Pope Francis, that of course was on at 4 o'clock Indianapolis time, and I woke up about 4:30 that morning, not planning to wake up, but I did. And so I turned on the TV, but then I muted it and I turned on their commentary because I knew I'd get the real facts. So they don't embellish. So I'm very happy that we're here. Let's take a moment to give God glory. Gracious and loving God, we are blessed in countless ways, and we continue to ask for the blessing of peace for our world. We are inspired by missionaries who leave home and culture and language to announce the good news in faraway places. And we are happy to be a part of the body of Christ that supports one another in this great effort of proclaiming the good news of the kingdom to the ends of the earth. Bless our time together this evening. May it be beneficial for each and every one of us. May we all grow a little bit in our understanding of the gospel's message as it pertains to the ends of the earth. And may we all grow in our understanding of the mission at Radio Pachas and at the parish in Petrini that have benefited from our support, and that are witnesses to all of us who've been there. They witness to us so beautifully about the depth of their faith and the joy they have found in Jesus. May our evening bear fruit for the good of the gospel through Christ our Lord. Amen. So now, without further ado, Sherry Meyer, longtime known, she grew up in Indianapolis, St. Mark's Parish, then went on to study theology in Chicago while working at the Archdiocese of Chicago, and then got snatched by God by the amazing, the simple word Africa on her mind, which she woke up in a deep sleep. And then Father Tonino, who got attracted to Africa early in his life and found his way to the Cambodian fathers and to Arua. So God brought these two together to do some really remarkable work. Let's hear about it. Well,
Thank you. You want me to start? I want to thank all of you who have come and filled this room, and particularly thank this parish, Father Steve Janini. We were we were here doing mission appeals last year. And he asked us to come back, but we are assigned elsewhere. This summer, we've been assigned to Batesville and Morris and Oldenburg. So that's where our mission appeals are this year. And so we came up with this idea to have something here at Francis and Clare. And you and your staff have been so gracious to us and provided everything and organized everything. And that's a big deal to us. So thank you. Thank all of you. And do we have directions on we're supposed to stand somewhere? I mean, live streaming? I mean, where? Well, there. I mean, like if I walk way over here, I mean, do we have any directions from?
You're good.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we start with some pictures? We've got some videos because we think if you can see some action, it's nicer than the photos. And we would like to show them and then stop and take questions. Okay? So.
Okay. We can start with this.
Okay. So this is something that Tony and Sarah Milano actually witnessed. This is one of the churches within our parish, and they are making bricks. This is all mud, and they're making bricks for building the parish priest's house at Petrini at the parish center. And I think we'll even see Sarah helping. We'll be here to get edited out.
It's a way to understand a little bit how people build small houses, you know. With these bricks you cannot build a multi-story house, but small house, so they have to prepare the mud.
And then they form the bricks, and now they're building them into a kiln, and they'll fire them. And the women were the ones carrying the water.
These are all members of that community of Boa, and it is like a small parish, no? Our parish in Catrini, it is a cluster of 8 smaller parishes. Even small children are trying to learn, they are initiated the adults to cooperate in the life of the community.
So when they are, you know, when you have paid money and given money to these chapels for constructing their church or building the parish priest's house, they all get involved. This is the local contribution.
Full swing.
Women and the girls are asked to carry water because water is not available there. They have to go maybe 1 mile away or less or more, you never know.
There, Sarah. Can you put it on full screen?
Lower right
Okay.
here.
There she is. Instead of people are trying to help me. They're giving advice.
Just hold them short.
There's another,
Here, you move this.
yeah.
Okay, this is just something small, just to
Yeah,
show.
this started.
To hear from you of what you have some questions about that. It is important to see concretely the life of the people. You know? Many times we take it for granted that they have everything, you know, that water comes into their houses, that all technology is available there. You don't find nothing in their homes. I don't think not even a hammer or a screwdriver you don't find in their homes. So different from here. Just a few days ago I was at the lake with the Baumans and the Myers, and thinking that that house was built by the father, but also the grandfather was somebody that they knew how, I mean, they have the history in the past. There they started 100 years ago, they had very small huts. I mean, nothing inside, nothing.
They weren't making bricks 100 years ago
No.
either. The walls were mud and wattle, and the roofs, straw, grass,
Yeah.
And so now, even in our parish, the parish we work in is one of the poorest in the diocese, one of the poorest in northern Uganda. And almost everybody, every parishioner of ours lives in a grass roof hut. That's where they live. When they come to church, when they come to the parish learning center, we have solar power so that there's electricity at night, and we have running water and other things. So some of the schools have running water, some of the schools have lights. So it's not that it's unknown to them, but actually having it in the home,
Yeah.
it's not there yet. So I think many of you have been following us through various events like this, through the newsletter. So if there are any questions, we can start with stop us. Yes,
Do
Christine.
the individual little parishes, do they have a well where they go to get their water?
No. There are,
Not that belongs on the church property, no. There's one in the community, but the county, the sub-county that our parish boundaries are in, has one of the least amounts of access to safe drinking water of any of the other sub-counties.
there are some natural springs that we have tried to protect them, where they go and fetch water. But sometimes they have to have, 1 mile and a half to go and fetch water. So
From like a well, they
Yeah.
call them a borehole. We are actually quite famous in Uganda for being people who are never successful in drilling boreholes. When we built the Christus Center, we've worked in 6 or 7 parishes. It's always, we're gonna get a water source for people. We have the experts come, it fails every time. And even now, in Katrini, we are trying again.
yeah.
Pray that it doesn't fail, because our reputation is,
And
everybody knows they can.
now with that brief second videos, we would like to show something also in the center of the parish, Katrini Chapel, where we plan to build a formation center for the parish, for our parish leaders, and now we are extending it also to other parishes, particularly Lugbara-speaking parishes. And we will see again a little bit how we can collecting bricks and stones and rocks. You see, and afterward they crush it to make the foundation. They are used to be mixed with cement. So,
Those rocks are heavy.
yeah.
We wanted a place of formation because we knew we needed leaders, but also for formation for all of the members, the different associations, the parishioners, because that's the first thing to invest in is the people.
You see, this is already the foundation. and all these rocks are there, and after with cement, so that becomes the floor.
So this center that we built for these courses needs dormitories, needs a place to feed people, a kitchen for cooking, it needs bathing shelters and toilets and a hall to teach in.
This would be the parish church.
Is
the
that
center.
building back there that's all stone and has metal roof. The center also has.
And this is the hill. We are near at the foot of this hill.
This is in the
Hills.
foothills of the tallest mountains in West Nile. Okay, the West Nile area, that our region of Uganda. These are the foothills of it. So we have some gorgeous valleys, and these people are mostly subsistence farmers. They're growing food for themselves. Their cash crop, particularly in this sub-county, is tobacco.
So this is another chapel, for instance, is Rio, another one of our parishes, that they are building a larger building church. In the middle there is the old one. Now they are building all around it.
Around the outside, and when they get the walls up to a certain point, then they'll start
This instead,
destroying the inside and recovering the bricks.
this is the parish learning center, you know. So we have bought a water tank, and now it's carrying all it little by little, carefully. Yeah.
Did you ever committee when we were building this, to carry the water tank?
Just to see a little bit the line, that was important because in a formation center, water must be there. So we connected with one borehole funded by UNICEF for the school, and so we are using it also for this.
So this water tank came from where? Kampala?
Kampala, of course, but we bought it in Arua. I mean, traders, Indians, you know, started already working, and so, but it's made in Kampala nowadays. Yeah.
So is this a special day, or is this just a typical day that they're working on building?
When it was under construction.
Yeah,
Now, we currently have finished the priest house. I don't
Yeah.
think we're constructing anything right now there.
no.
There are other
not in the,
construction.
not in the.
But in the parish, I mean, individually, yeah, not all of the chapels now, we have 8 of them. All of them have a building that they can worship in now. There was one that when we first came, we've been there 4 years, almost 5 years,
Yeah,
in Katrini. Some were still praying under a tree. You know, they just on Sundays gathered under the shade of beautiful trees, and it was really lovely. But now they have actually finished their building and roofed it. So now there's still windows and doors and floors and all
Yeah.
kinds of things to be done, but at least they gather inside a building, which is very nice during the rainy season, because when you're using a tree, some Sundays get canceled, so.
How many parishioners are you talking about in the parish? How many parishioners?
altogether, I think we have 8,000, 9,000 Catholics
Really?
in that. But we serve this parish only during weekends, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday for meeting with all the leaders and so on. And Sunday we go in one of those for the celebration of the Eucharist. It is 25 kilometers, which means 19 miles more or less from Radio Pacis to this place. So it is not just close. Those who have seen.
Radio Pacis is close to the city of Arua, which
Yeah.
only recently.
Yeah, we will
almost
see
did.
something later and so on. So
When Tony and Sarah were with us, we spent one day and we moved throughout the parish. We went from chapel to chapel to chapel in one day. And so
by car.
by car, yeah.
Can I make a statement?
Yeah.
These people, I mean, they are the most joyous people I've ever met. They sing beautifully, they sing all day long, they sing while they work, they're happy to see us, you know, white people. They were just like, you know, just all wanted to shake our hands, and but they're just so joyful. They're the most joyful people, you know, in general, that I've ever seen in, you know, from place to place to place. The ones that were, you know, thigh high in mud, and the ladies that had these, I don't even know how much, one of those.
20 liters is what's in one of those
And I can't
yellow.
even tell you how much those
Yeah.
weighed, and they were walking
Yeah,
over a
okay.
mile with those on their heads. You know, but they were all smiling, and they had their little mini, solar panel hooked up to a radio, and it was playing the music, and they were all singing along, you know, it was a joy to be there. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, if I had to do all that work at home, I'd be whining.
No, you wouldn't.
I'd also be saying, Tony, help me.
They were
So,
so,
anyway,
they
it
were
was
so
lovely.
welcoming and proud of what they have. I remember, first of all, that little tight wrestling that brick, we have the same video from our stop. But I remember one of the stops, this older gentleman came up to me with a 1,000-watt smile, and just so proud to shake my hand, and he had one heck of a grip. And I don't think he outweighed my left leg, but he was proud, and stood tall, and welcomed me and grabbed my hand. And it was a very powerful day.
And not only joyful, but we went, as we were going to some of the parish halls, they were doing choir practice, they were doing
Yeah.
all kinds of things. They're
Making bread.
And you know, they're very faithful. Not only are they joyous, they're very faith-filled people. So you guys have done a beautiful job getting the
When you got
spread of
there,
faith.
how did you get past the language barrier?
Tell them how you did it.
How did you get past the language barrier when you got there?
I haven't passed it yet.
Lugbara language is a tonic language, so they are high, middle, and low tone, monosyllabic, and the preposition are postposition. So it is a little bit complicated. But the only way I did was I arrived there in 1966. 1966, so it is 29 years ago. And
No.
what did I say?
29. Try 59.
Who wants to be younger than he is?
It was a leap year.
59.
And you were 10 years old.
No, I was 28 years old. So now I am 86 years old. So you can put things together. And so, with the children, and writing, and so on.
You had 6 months, I mean, you were
Yeah,
sent
the
to
first 6
parish
months
priest,
I
so-
only concentrated on studying the language, and in the evening I was with one priest and one Comboni brother. I tried to ask them to make understand how you put a sentence, because there were no written really, except the catechism.
And how quickly were you able to do math?
Yeah, well, I started because I believe that the language is very important. It's the key that opens the door to understand the new culture. Well, we started the first year, I was speaking the language, and after the second year I was improving, and never in the end.
But now, I mean, at 86, he's an elder in the language. And he uses proverbs that the new generation, the young people, they don't even know them. So he's like teaching proverbs, you know, when he speaks and in his homilies, he uses proverbs that the elders know, but the young people haven't heard yet. Because he's really, everybody always says to me, is it true that he speaks Lubar? And people all the time remark on it that he's the best Lubar speaker among all the missionaries who have come. I only pray in Lubar. You know, I got it down, most of the songs, unless I go to another place and they have songs I don't know. But I know my prayers, and I can make my way in the marketplace, and, you know, I can make a few jokes, but I teach in English.
Do they speak English? Are they learning to speak English?
English is the official language of the country.
That's what I
Yes.
So it's taught in the schools,
Of course.
you know, so anybody who's been to school. And so, yeah, for the diocese, there are so many languages in the diocese that anytime we teach at a diocesan level, we're speaking English, because it's the only common language in the room. And the 6 languages of our radio station, none of those language groups understand one another. So it's not like 6 dialects, it's 6 languages.
Yeah. There is Lubar, Alur, these were, and Kakwa, and Mahdi. These were the 4 languages of our diocese. You see, Lubar is the largest, to say, population, but Kakwa is some in Uganda, some are in Congo, and some are in Sudan. They've been cut because the European decided how to the boundaries of the country and so on. So it is important, you know. And on the radio we will see we are using 6 languages, and that's why the radio has 4 different radio frequencies, all called radio patches, but one concentrates on the Lubar people, another one on the Alur people, another one to the Acholi, which is outside the region of West Nile where we are, and the other one is Mahdi and Arabic, because also deals with the 1,200,000 people who are refugees within the territory of our diocese. 1,200,000
From where?
From South Sudan. And they now, I mean, it's still war there. And they keep coming even now. So it's very, very sad. Anyway, now we can see something about the Easter Triduum. We have been taught Sherry particularly, she is an expert in liturgy, and the importance and the tradition of the Easter Triduum. So we would like to show a little bit how we have done, for instance, this year in our parish. And this could be Palm Sunday, with the procession outside the church, with the palms.
Maybe never has to be walk around and walk
This instead we have in the church.
I'd say.
Easter Sunday.
Yeah. We were at the parish center. There is a parochial vicar, you would say here, in our parish, just recently assigned by the bishop. And, so he was in another chapel. And every Sunday, he does 2 masses. One at the parish center, and then he goes to a chapel, and we go to another chapel. So 3 of the 8 sites have a priest with mass every Sunday, which is triple what they used to have because it was only us. And so we only went to 1 every Sunday. So people had mass every 8 weeks. But now, with this young guy who does 2 masses like he used to do when he was young, so now we're their church. We told him there'll be 2.
They are not short masses, that's why, I mean, they're 2.5 hours.
Oh, yes, of course.
And the homily is
with the music.
George, he never lost. And they sing.
8 weeks worth.
Friday.
What about the
And this is all in the parish church, which I think is probably about the best church we have,
Yeah,
the best condition.
absolutely. Yeah.
Where's this church, Sherry? That church, where was that church?
This is at the parish
Parish
center.
Yes,
That's the nice.
Easter Vigil outside, and the church is down there.
Now, this is what's so neat, when they see, walk out that car.
This is the
The
inside, you
beauty
see their light,
is when all people sing.
fluorescent tubes.
The liturgies are really very, very nice. That is the glory of it.
Diane and Charlie Gardner, who some people might know, they came to Aruba. They were gonna be here tonight. They were really fascinated by the music and the instruments and
This is the catechist, the young guy, and we are trying to. The chasuble was made by Sherry. He made all the chasuble I am using. She is a very good artist and player.
And these women, when you realize that they live in grass huts, no running water, no electricity, they come beautifully dressed, clean, ironed, I don't know how they do it. That, you know, and the men, everything's white, the white is so white. So I'm not sure how they, and the children are beautifully clothed, you know.
their irons are little charcoal boxes. They put hot charcoal inside.
What was the religion when you got there? What was the?
We've celebrated 100 years of the missionaries arriving. So they've only been Christians for a little more than 100 years. But the original religion was I can't get the word. Monotheism, yes. They believed in a God, but one God. They didn't have, you know, lots of little spirits. But there was African traditional religion.
This is after a mass in one other chapel called Alinea.
Because the 2.5-hour mass just wasn't enough. We stay around afterwards and sing and dance some more.
Then you take your chickens and go home.
All the small children are trying to learn.
But Sherry, isn't it true that some of these people, it's a long time before a priest comes?
Yeah,
So they're not gonna come for a few minutes and go home. They
Yeah.
waited weeks and weeks for the
Yeah.
priest to be at their chapel.
Yeah.
So it may be many months, I don't know how much time in between,
Well,
before
if
they
they-
get to see again, so they want
even
it
with
to
us
be.
gone, I mean, with him not there, it's down to, the resident parochial vicar, he's only doing 2 now. So now the length, with us gone, length is,
Once a month.
yeah, going down.
Here there is now some footage that we have taken just the last Sunday before leaving from a chapel called Reo. And after we see some environment there, and we show a little bit this parish formation center. And so you see here, there is something that she has to take care of.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Some of these people look very, very old, but none of them are as old as
Just rub it in.
like, they look like they're older than me, but when I ask them if they know, because we don't have birth certificates or death certificates, the government is working on that, but we don't have birth certificates. If they had their baptismal card, they might know when they were baptized, but they don't always know their age, but whenever I ask them, they're always like 20 years younger than me. Those little feeble women that were coming to communion.
Sherry, how far do people travel to get to church?
Here there is somebody.
Well, you notice we didn't have any parking lots. No parking lots. So they all walk except us. And the parochial vicar, he has a motorcycle. So he goes by motorcycle. So how long do they walk? I mean,
It can be 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
because they all go on paths, they don't necessarily follow the roads.
You see, inside there is a church, and this is now the outside
Of the new church.
of the new church.
That's an Adungu.
Adungu, different, there are 7 or 8 or 9 that are tuned differently and all together.
Unfortunately, I don't have one. I should have brought one.
They have a sound of harps.
Or guitars, or,
Yeah.
a stringed instrument.
Yeah.
So are the races, and I don't mean for money, but the conglomerate of people that are there, are they all one race?
They're all Lubara.
Lubar.
In the
These are
town, in
their
the
houses.
cities and towns, like in Arua town, there's some of everybody. But out in a rural area like this, they're all
So all their kinds.
Lubara. Right
Is
there.
it tobacco? Banana,
They, the land is owned by them, and it's generational. Women, when they marry, they become part of the husband's family and clan. So, the land is divided among the sons. And then, because the wives the women always become wives in other clans, you know, so. No, we have polygamy. Not a lot, because you have to be wealthy to be a polygamist, so.
These were taken those little videos while we were traveling back to reach. This is the central chapel of Catrini. You can see here that hill, the church is at the base, you know, and afterwards this is the new center, and they were children playing.
Playing soccer, there's a soccer field. Of course.
So the learning center, is that when they go to, the children go to school?
No, that, the school doesn't appear in that
Yeah.
picture.
Okay,
It's
so-
off to the, there is a primary school, and there are
1,680.
80 students,
For 7 years.
1,680 for 7 levels of school, primary school, and there are 10 teachers.
So are they required to go to school?
Yes, now, they just made that law. It's only been maybe 10, 15 years that the government provided free primary education, free, and a few years after that, free secondary education. But now they've added on truancy. I mean, they can arrest the parents, you know, if they don't send their children to school. But we have a general problem with enforcing our laws. They make good laws in Parliament, but
This is the new priest's house.
Oh, nice.
That, he does not live there yet,
Okay.
but that is finished, so. he will
Look how
enter
pretty it
the
is.
school.
Oh, they have so many clients.
What's the form of communication? I mean, it appears primitive. I mean, are there, do you have access to internet?
the individuals, there are people who are educated. There are amazing number of people who have what we would call cell phone. But even more amazing is the ones that have a smartphone. I mean, it's really, but it has to do with education level. They have access to information of the internet through radio podcasts. Their main form of media is FM radio. And so
Yeah.
they're listening to radio podcasts. All of the people who work for radio podcasts, everybody who works in our newsroom, everyone who is a radio presenter, they have access to internet, you know, at the radio 24 hours a day. So, you know, it's a kind of secondary access. That's what radio podcasts is providing them. So, but they're.
But Sherry, didn't you a while back, a few years ago, provide those radios because that was their only means?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
When the bishop first sent us to this parish, we realized that, I remembered from when, you know, the first 12 years I was there, we built a different center for the diocese, a big training center, and ran courses. And they were in catechetical, liturgical, you know, leadership, all kinds of church things that we taught. We got to this parish, and it was part of a parish who never attended anything we taught all those years. We also found out they weren't listening to radio podcasts. This is why they were lagging behind in sanitation, nutrition for their children, health care for their children. You know, it's the sub-county with the least amount of health centers, the least amount of, you know, drinkable water sources, and the highest number of open defecation. I mean, that every home does not have a place
No.
that is a pit latrine. first thing we said is every chapel.
Has to, otherwise I am not coming. That's all the strategy. And they did it. For example,
You know, so, I mean, and this is some of the things, we saw a very good example, it was great for us, to realize who our listeners are, you know? That those things have changed in other places because of the power of radio podcasts. So what Lynn is referring to, one of the first things we did is we got some money and bought in bulk some small FM radios, and we sold them to them at a subsidized price. We got a donor to subsidize, so they didn't have to pay market price for them. And we went out every weekend with the car full of these, and they lined up and paid for their radio, and so now, even on the radio program that Father Jim was mentioning, Come Home, we do get callers from our parents, so we're hoping that.
So they're battery radios?
The ones we bought run on a solar panel. You got the radio and a solar panel for 20,000 shillings, which would be like $6.50. Yeah, $6.
So do like multiple families live together, or is it usually one little house?
One house, but they'll be around because it's usually, it's patriarchal. So, a man and his sons then build on the same land. So it's kind of a
So
family.
then do the sons and when they grow up take care of their parents?
Yes and no. They talk about respecting their elders, but we feel that, there's some neglect, but, it's an issue. Yeah, we talked about that.
so here we are seeing a little bit some parts of this new center that we have started. These are people training and basic facilities for the women. This is kind of laundry.
Your clothes. Because we have some residential courses that last 5 weeks.
Yeah,
You live in this center for 5 weeks.
yeah.
Now, do they have to pay for that or not?
Well, yes, we of course, it's highly subsidized. Nobody would be able to pay what it costs us to actually, one participant per day. They can't.
And this is,
So we always find funding for it. But then they do pay because, they tell us themselves, if we don't pay anything, it's not worth it. So,
It's their investment.
yeah,
So they, yes.
and they don't invest in it. So even the radios, we did not give them out free.
That's very interesting. Did they understand that?
these small huts, built nicely, they are for group discussions, during the training, so they are already divided in groups, and so that they
Inside
can.
there's like a circular bench, that is part of it. It's not, it's cement, on the inside of one of these. And with the windows and the grass roof, they're very cool. It's a very comfortable place.
This is the kitchen is there and so on. These two buildings, it's like a beginning of a poultry. To raise some money for the parish. Otherwise, it's only the collection on Sunday. And how is the? If we put eight chapel together, they might collect what? $10, $20, not more than that. Maybe. If all.
The bishop requires every parish, every chapel, every praying community to give at least 100 shillings per person. Everybody needs to give the bishop 100 shillings once a month. The first Sunday in the month, everybody has to give 100 shillings. So the treasurer usually has me take it back to Arua so that it can be taken over to the chancery. We average for our whole parish, all 8 chapels, it's usually around 21,000 shillings.
Which equals what?
Which equals, again, $6.
Yeah, really, I mean,
But what is their average income?
Well, see, they're all subsistence farmers. They sell a few things that they can put in the market, or, you know, they raise tobacco. And if the tobacco company pays them on time, you know, if their crop is successful and it's a high grade, then they get a bunch of money all at once, which isn't as easy to manage as if they were employed. But unless they're working in a health center or in a school, or they're in the army, or they're with the police, I mean,
yeah,
there aren't employment opportunities within our
no,
parish boundaries.
So then how do they get what they need? Like
Well, you sell something you grow, you get salt and soap
sugar,
and sugar, things like that. I don't know where they get money, but when we had those radios, they pulled those 20,000 out of their pockets faster than.
Must do this.
The other thing they spend money on are funerals. Somebody dies and they are so generous. I'm thinking, they keep money at home, I guess.
this is one
It would be in polite
course
cash.
that we have called Lungo, that
It's
lasts
5 weeks.
necessarily, you said 5 weeks. So this is the hall, where the.
And these people come from all Lubar parishes in the diocese are welcome to
Yes.
this course. So these are people from, just the Lubar speaking, because we do the whole course in Lubar.
And we have designed also this t-shirt, you know, with them. Practically, they learn how to develop with their Christian community and the initiation of children. And for parents, for baptism, no? And after first communion, the program for confirmation. All these catechetical programs were developed while Sherry and I were the pastoral coordinators of the diocese. No? And she had really a great talent to renew material taken from a missiological institute in South Africa and to transform it so that it is understood there, and it is doesn't require that every participant has to have a book, because that would never work. Yeah.
It's all oral tradition, so that, you know, people who don't read and write can participate.
And this is the parochial
Vicar,
vicar. So
that's what you would say. They call him a curate in a rural diocese.
Is he a priest?
Yeah,
yeah, he's
he's got his
also
Roman collar on. Okay, it's already 7:30.
Thank you and pray for us. I wanted that.
We haven't said anything about Radio 5.
Now.
Oh.
Let us talk about radio parties. Just to have an idea, where is Arua? So these are the 4 frequencies we have. This is taken from a small airplane. That is the cathedral, and this is the. We have 500 kilowatt peak of solar system to sustain the radio, because the radio needs a lot of electricity. This was when we were commenting coordination.
This was an outside broadcast.
This is-
We have the ability to go to an event like ordinations at the cathedral and broadcast live.
This is one of the most important programs that we have as a radio. We go to the settlement of the refugees, and this part is also taken from a settlement, of the refugees. She speaks Kakwa in this moment and tells the story and the problems that they have also sometimes in the camps, because some NGOs don't do, they receive money from UNHCR and so on, but they don't develop really what they are supposed to do to serve them. But also the problem that they have lost everything. A refugee has nothing, no land, no house, no friends that he used to have around, and so on. So it is really the worst situation possible.
So in this program, you come to the camp
Yes,
and you set up a microphone and
yes.
you have a
here.
certain topic that people discuss, or?
Lowe's and Home Depot both can't stand when you do this.
It takes preliminary work. Somebody goes out and finds out what topic they want to talk about, and then we gather the authorities who would be responsible for that. So, we give them, the safety of being able to speak out to these authorities that are responsible for distribution of food, distribution of seeds, tools, tents, whatever. And so then they are safe to speak because we're there. And then we take it back to the station, and the producers package it so that it fits in an hour, and then we broadcast it. Okay, and then we go back some months later. So we do it both for the refugees
And for our people.
regular Ugandan communities. Because and then the topics often are like alcoholism, or domestic violence in the home, or certain school where the teachers aren't showing up, or,
Robberies because there is no medicine where they are supposed to be, and they disappear.
land issues, people arguing over where the boundary is between Father Steve's land and my land. So, those are the topics. Yes, Sam?
Outside of venting their frustrations, has that been effective?
Yes. So, that's why we go back.
Yes.
So, if we talk about alcoholism, or there's a land issue to be resolved, after 2 or 3 months, we check with them, and if they're ready for us to come back, we go back, and then they talk about how they solved their problem.
Yeah.
Or if it was a failure, it didn't work, we talk again about what can we do, what's the way forward. So, yeah, we do have statistics because we have donors who fund this. This is very expensive radio, going out in the
Meaning,
field and,
you leave a team of 5 people in the morning, at 7 they are on the road. There is a driver, there are 2 moderators and 2 technicians, more or less. One also that does media,
this for the social media platform.
yes, platform and so on. And they stay there. I mean, it is 100 kilometers away to go and to come back. And this is done for all the languages. So every week there is a trip for the Lugar, the other for the Alur, does the same. So you go among the Alur and you discuss and you talk. The station that is in Gulu does that with the Acholi speaking. The other that is in Moyo goes also with the Madi speaking. Plus, as we have seen, we go at least with the refugees also, and we call that the voice of the voiceless. Instead, these other, we call it community voices. No, so that
We started with rural debates. That was the first name of the program.
Yeah.
Rural debates, and people started saying, we don't like to be called rural. We didn't know that had negative connotations.
So are you limited by the government or authorities what you can speak about or
Yeah.
travel to?
That's a good question, no?
Yeah, as long as we talk about local officials, we're okay. But don't touch the national government.
Are there any repercussions if it's offending people by what they say?
Well, not as long as Radio Pachis is there. I mean, this is why they're not speaking directly, you know. Why don't they just go to the office and tell them that, you know. So there are. But they call themselves the Republic of Uganda, but the president always wins every election. And he's been in power since 19, before me, I went in 91. So, he's the only
86.
president I've ever known.
86, 1986 up to now.
Yeah, so it's a democracy, they say. We have a constitution, but, you know, he wins every election. And then they put in a law that, you know, there were term limits. You know, you can only be president 2 terms. So then he changed the constitution. So anyway, and elections are coming up. They'll be in January of 2026, and we will have lots of business on the radio. The political parties will advertise, will come for talk shows, and we will be open to the opposition parties and the current ruling party. And there'll be hot debates and that we can do okay, you know, but we can't openly criticize the government. Yeah, the president.
So who can vote?
Actually,
See, I don't know how she managed, maybe corruption. They want corruption. She managed to have the national ID.
I haven't given up my citizenship or anything, but I'm a permanent resident, a life residency, which gives me a national ID, and my name is on the voter rolls, and they always insist I come and vote. It's like a media event that I come. So anyway, it's 18, isn't it? 18 and above vote?
Yeah.
Yeah. 18 years of age and above can vote.
So what happens when the president dies?
Well, he's been preparing his son.
Could there be another revolution?
Well, I mean, that's the danger always in Africa, is that, you know, all this gets built up, and then if they have war, it all gets torn down.
That's why you have boundaries.
So, yeah.
Yeah, some images of this another voice of the voiceless.
So you have,
Nah.
you have refugees from Sudan. Do you have refugees from Congo?
Yes, as well, but not so much in our diocese. That would be Nevi diocese, where we're going to move one of our frequencies that speaks the Lur language. We're going to move down to within the diocesan property of Nevi, and that they get a lot of Congolese refugees. So
This is an event that happened in Kampala just a
before we
couple
left.
of days before we left. And that this is the most important event for journalism in 1 year in Uganda.
It's an annual thing.
And Radio Patches got the first. Now we can see something that we received.
It's called the Stanbic Shield. And Stanbic is a bank, big bank in Uganda. And this is them giving the award. It goes to one radio station
And we
for a specific reason. And the reason they gave for us, they'll
Is-
show it here.
yes. Okay.
That's a big deal because a lot of the awards have been from the BBC.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We see so
She-
many. I mean,
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 Stanley Shield of Journalism Award goes to Radio Passes with a cash prize of 10 million shillings, courtesy of
not dollars. It's only shillings.
How much, what is 10 million shillings?
Well, can be 2,500, 2,000.
Well, the reason they gave for us, yeah, is $3,000.
It's
Show it
our
here. This is our.
website, if
You
you
want that
Google
website.
radiopatches.org or just Radio Patches, you come to the website where there is the streaming of the 4 frequencies. Okay?
You wanted to add something?
What
Also,
kind of training do young people feel interested in looking at the radio?
So,
What training?
we're more than 21 years old now. I mean, we're in our 21st year, okay? We've been broadcasting for 20 years. When we started, we hired people who had never done any radio at all, and a few people who worked for one of the 2 other radios in our area, or perhaps worked somewhere else, but then there would be language problems, other than if we hired them for English. So at the beginning, nobody had any degree in mass communications or journalism and most of the people we interviewed, so we had to just interview people who applied, and they had never, we didn't have anybody who, I listened to a radio all my life and I always wanted, for the schools, you can meet some applicants who, I always wanted to be a teacher. Or, the seminaries, I always wanted to be a priest. Or for the radio, they had never even, listened to a radio except for the last 3 years. Now, in our 21st year, we have quite a few people who actually have the credentials. Our station manager he's finished. He hasn't received the graduation certificate yet, but he has a master's in journalism and mass comm. And most of our journalists now, the government keeps threatening that they're not gonna let anybody on a microphone without credentials. And that they're gonna list every radio journalist and their credentials. Now, since we don't have birth certificates and death certificates, I'm thinking it's gonna be a long time for they can organize to get, even the national ID system, they've only done it once, they need to do it again, and, it was like, well, you've seen, one of us got it and one didn't. It didn't work perfectly. So I don't know how they're ever gonna make a list of all of us, but we dutifully have been making sure. So now, we really, I just did some work before I left. We were advertising, we have a kind of recruitment program for new journalists, and we don't even look at anybody who doesn't have at least a certificate in journalism. When I started, we required 4 years of high school. But now we have people coming with bachelor's degrees in mass comm.
So, you said they have, in your area, children go to school 7 years. In high school, do they have to go off somewhere else?
Well, we have secondary schools too, yes, they go to, most of them are boarding schools. Uganda was a British protectorate, not a colony, but it's kind of the same. So the education system is British. So they do 7 years of primary, then they do 4 years of secondary, which is called O level, ordinary level, and then 2 more years of secondary get you A level. And then after that would be university. So, it's a British system and I've struggled to understand it, even though I was a teacher here, but, that's, so they kind of end up like us. If you do 6 years of high school and 7 years, we don't require kindergarten. So, you know, if we do, you figure K through university, we come out.
So now,
Are we finished?
you know, there is.
Where is what we got the award for?
Yes, now, we have to wait a little bit. So, after we moved, there was
After we already came to
yes,
the United States, there was a big ceremony in town. They drove through the streets with people dancing, a kind of
these
parade.
are our staff.
Yes, our staff and other people, see, showing the award and a big celebration that they had won a national award.
Now, very much the student is actually receiving the award with other colleagues from Kampala, and we shall also, we're actually using this opportunity to also recognize journalism. Now, this award not only
So what he said, in case you didn't get it, he said what the award was given to us was for consistently making our journalism, our news, and other programming
Service of the community.
and at the service of the community, which is what we started as a value-based community radio. Those are our core values. You know, it's not commercial, and it's not like Radio Maria or EWTN. You know, we announce the gospel, you know, holistically. That includes, you know, Jesus cured the sick, so we talk about health issues. So we were very proud of this award because it really was for what our core values are.
we are honored with the standing flag shield of journalism in recognition of our consistent demonstration and commitment to community-driven journalism.
Community-driven journalism. And I'm glad this happened after I was gone. This isn't my favorite activity. That way I didn't have to say, you know, guys, I really don't want to go. I don't know how you ever climbed up there. Now it's noisy, the roads are dusty and the sun is hot.
Rainy season is now. now July, August, September is, some was earlier, usually June should be kind of dry season a little bit for 1 month, but things are changing, so.
Yeah.
But the real heavy
Growing
raining
season.
is July, August, September. And after October is going down. December, January, February, and March supposedly are dry season.
With no rain at all. So they can only grow in the valleys. But the growing season is so long that they can do multiple crops, multiple plantings.
It's still hard putting a copper building made out of mud, doesn't wash away.
Those roofs are so, really water resistant. I mean, it really does. All the water runs right off. They're not wet inside. And it's so much cooler. My house has a metal roof on it. And metal roofs in all of the churches. It's
Yeah.
really hot inside those chapels. If that metal roof is not very far off your head. Whew.
The fire is gone.
In the refugee camps, fires are very common because their huts are so close together, even during the time of Coney, and we had internally displaced camps. They were practically one roof touched the other if a fire started. So, are you finished?
There is, if you want, there is to see the, this is a map of Uganda. Arua is here. We have Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan, and so we have one station here, another one will go to Negbi for the Alur, and we have Moyo here for the Madi and the Arabic and the refugees, because they are mainly in this area, in Ajumani, Moyo, along the Nile, and we reach South Sudan. Here we go at least 50 miles into the Congo, where there are Lopara in this side, and there are Alur in the other side. And from Gulu, we still, so we cover practically more than 12 million people in this area with the 4 frequencies of radio patches. So that is very important.
So this is down here? I was gonna show in Tebi and Kampala to understand why it takes 13 hours.
Just to see a few shots about the nearest park, national park that we have in Uganda.
That looks like our geese.
Yeah,
Migratory birds.
birds. This road was made by the government, by the Chinese, of course, the Chinese firm, because that leads to the waterfalls, and we will see. And we were not happy because there is also the issue that they have discovered oil in this park, and they are destroying the park in a way, but nobody can speak about that. It is top secret that only president and these people when they fight, that is their way of fighting. Yes. Yeah, kicking.
And you can tell how old they are by, there's brown spots are really dark when they're older.
The darker skinned one is older.
These are young people, like teenagers. This is vertical form. This is an eye that start from ginger. Ginger is the source, the Nile, and little by little goes to the Mediterranean.
Ginger is a little bit east of Kampala, the capital city.
We have the
So the falls is unaffected by dry season?
No, there are times it's different.
It is lower.
Yeah,
yes.
it's lower.
In September, usually it is when
But it's been affected by the dam that they put in for electricity there at Karuma. And it's been exceptionally high for a while.
yeah, that is it's a beautiful
Just to see some
national
beauty.
park, of course. Very beautiful, yeah.
So it's 8 o'clock. We've
Yeah,
been talking
this is it.
for an hour and a half.
He likes to talk.
After,
Yeah, I can listen to this all day.
Yeah.
That's enjoyed the best. The falls is so great. And the day we were there was very hot. So you can get close enough to get the mist. And it's really quite refreshing. You don't walk away from it just because you're getting wet. It's very nice.
Okay. So that is some stories where we work and where Sherry is working. I came to know her when I was appointed by the bishop as the pastoral coordinator. I was already in touch with an organization called VMM to have lay leaders come and work as missionary. So I had a couple from California that worked there in the parish where I was at that time for 4 years. And after another couple came. But when the bishop asked me to move away from that parish and be a pastoral coordinator, I wrote to this organization that I needed somebody capable of teaching, of good in administration, with a background in theology, and they looked and found Sherry Mine. So she arrived, and since then we have been working together for 33 years. So that's very important. Really, she has done a terrific job in first during the time when we were pastoral coordinators in adapting catechetical material that suited the situation in a room. And they are still using. They will use it for other 10, 15, 20 years, I don't know, for sure. And on the radio, she really, we are so different. You can see. She put the foundation of the organization. All the how to structure and so on, all the policies. Oh my God! That's why radio parties will be have a future. Will have a future because foundations are very good. And even the new director that has been appointed for years, 5 years ago now, is at the beginning he did not understand. But when he saw that they were guidelines, in all the department in news and human resource and in music, in this and that and so on, he said, oh no, I feel that we can do it. We meet every week for 2 hours and 2 hours and a half, the core management team members, on a Tuesday, from 9:30 to 11:30 or sometimes 12. And every Friday, all the meetings of all the journalists, So, because we are on air 24 hours every day. Sunday, even Easter. There is no time to say, oh, now we can close it, the radio, and we relax a little bit to have some holidays. There are no holidays at all. So, and the impact that has on the culture and the people is really great. And so we are very also pleased to see that this child that we started 23 years ago is growing. It's growing well, really, with some problems like all the children you have at home. At a certain point, we give you some, to think about. So also that one. But we are still there, revered, and so we still animate the leadership with our presence and with our reminding ourselves about what is the mission that we have here. This is a ministry that we can reach out to so many people that we will never come to know them, but our words can touch their hearts because of what we say and what we produce. So thank you very much for having come here tonight. And
we're going to have, we still have refreshments and also shopping opportunities afterwards till about 8:30 or so. But if everyone please stand. Sherry, we have Father Communion. You must stand by Father Jim. If you all join me in the Lord's blessing. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Oh, gracious God, we thank you so much for Sherry and Father Timothy. They are your missionaries, our brother and sister, who go forth into the world to proclaim the good news, especially the good news of your Son Jesus, and the living gospel, the gospel among the people of Arua, of northwest Uganda, and also the people of Sudan and the Congo. May their ministry that we've received tonight guide us all in how we too can be missionaries in our own ways, in our own places, among our own peoples. May they continue to bring your good news to others. May they have health and nourishment, and most of all, the blessings of you, O Lord, who are good and deserving of all of our love. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Mighty God bless you all, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you again. Thank you.